الحمد لله رب العالمين، صلوات الله والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن اهتدى بهداه إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد. This is the fourth lecture on Nuzhat Al-Nadhar, commentary on Nuzhat Al-Nadhar. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We stopped last time talking about Al-Gharib, huh? We stopped on Al-Gharib. He said that the are two types. First type is mutawatir, the second type is khabar ahad. That these ahad are not all authentic. Some of them are accepted and some of them are not accepted. So the ones that are accepted, it's chain. So we have to go back to the chain and examine it to give our statement. After studying the chains and examining it. He started talking about, he said, وفيها المقبول والمردود وهو الذي لم يرجح صدق وهو الذي لم يرجح صدق المخبر به لتوقف الاستدلال بها على البحث عن أحوال رواتها دون الأول وهو المتواتر فكله مقبول لإفادة إلى آخره. Then he said وقد يقع فيها ما يفيد العلم النظري بالقرائن. Then he said said it 100%, or we believe that in a way that we can that means we have to practice the hadith, but it's not always, doesn't mean that we believe 100%. It can be less than 100%, but we say that there's a big percentage that the Prophet ﷺ said that. About that, we talked about that until we went to, yes, then he said ثم الغرابة إما أن تكون في أصل السند. What is الغريب? الغريب, any narration that, الغريب is any narration of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that is narrated in one grade of the chain. Only one person narrated it. He says here أقسام الغريب ثم الغرابة إما أن تكون في أصل سند أي في الموضع الذي يدور الإسناد عليه ويرجح ولو تعددت الطرق الذي فيه الصحابي أو لا يكون كذلك بأن يكون التفرد في أثنائه كأن يرويه عن الصحابي أكثر من واحد ثم يتفرد بروايته عن واحد منهم شخص واحد. So he says here الغرابة means only one narrates it. That means only one person. It can be only one person, and it can be one city or one place. That's called al-fard al-mutlaq or al-fard nisbi. sanad, where the narration starts, even if it has a lots of roots, if it has a lots of chains, or it can be in some in from the Sahabi. I mean, only one Sahabi narrated it, or something like that. Or it can be in the middle between this and this, so it's either in the beginning or in the end or in the middle of the chain. Sahaba that narrated it, and then somebody narrates it. Only one narrates it from one Sahabi. Of the stages of the chain. So here he says, الغريب فالأول الفرد المطلق. الفرد المطلق كحديث النهي عن بيع الولاء وعن هبته تفرد به عبد الله بن دينار عن ابن عمر، وقد ينفرد به راو عن ذلك المنفرد كحديث شعب الإيمان تفرد به أبو صالح عن أبي هريرة، وتفرد به عبد الله بن دينار عن أبي صالح، وقد يستمر التفرد في جميع رواته أو أكثرهم، وفي مسند البزار والمعجم الأوسط للطبراني أمثلة كثيرة لذلك. Now this is al-fard al-mutlaq. That means it is fard totally. That means only one narrator narrated it in one of the stages of the chain. He says like hadith النهي عن بيع الولاء وعن هبته. الولاء talking about being an ally. That means free a slave. When you free a slave, he becomes your ally, and then if there's nobody to inherit you, he will inherit you and you will inherit him. So it's like a relationship that stays the whole life. So it's like when you have your son. You can't sell your son to somebody else and tell him that he's not my son anymore now. You adopt him, so he's your son. That's not permissible. The same thing is for the wala. You can't sell it, and you can't give it as a gift. The Prophet ﷺ prevented from doing that. Aisha radiallahu anha, a she-slave, a girl slave. Her name was Barira. So Barira came to Aisha radiallahu anha and told her, please, I want you to help me to become free. How come? She said, I want you, because in the Islamic law, you're allowed, somebody's allowed, if he's a slave, to go and work and pay his master and buy himself and become free. It's called al-mukataba. Al-mukataba. Barira went doing that, and she went to Aisha radiallahu anha. She asked her to free her, to help her, to pay her some money to become free. Okay, I will help you and I will free you, and then you will be my ally. Her masters told her no, she can help you and she can buy you and free you, but you are going to be our ally. That's our condition. The Prophet ﷺ didn't agree about that, and he told her That's not permissible. Because الولاء لحمة كلحمة النسب لا يبقى. Being an ally, it's like kin, the family relationship. You can't sell it and you can't buy it. You can't buy somebody to become your son, and you can't sell your son to somebody and he will adopt him. That's not permissible, and it's not even logic, because your son is part of you. You can't sell him. And the same thing is for this ally being the slave, the free slave ally. So when you free a slave, your ally, not nobody, anybody who frees a slave, he becomes his ally. That's why they say مولاهم الجعفي مولاهم القرشي مولاهم, because they are the tribe that freed him, and he adopts their name. But they differentiate between the name, the family name of so and so, salibatan, they call it salibatan, that means you are from the sulb, you are from the same family, or wala'an. Wala'an means that you are their ally. So this hadith, naha an bay'i al-wala'i wa an hibatihi, it's narrated by Abdullah ibn Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu anhu. Abdullah ibn Umar, several slaves, but they weren't like slaves that you hear in the history, that they used to work a lot and they were tortured and so and so. No. These slaves were like his children. He used to take care of them, and they became his narrators and scholars too. So Abdullah ibn Dinar is one of the slaves of Abdullah ibn Umar, and he has another slave that is better than him called Nafi'. Both of these slaves were from the shuyukh of Imam Malik rahimahullah. Of course, this is my right hand, not my left hand, but the camera is flipped over, so don't worry about that. I'm drinking with my right hand, not my left hand. Because it happened to me the day before yesterday, and somebody started telling me, please drink with your... Okay. Clarify things, like the Prophet ﷺ, when his wife Safiya was with him, he told them, don't rush, it's my wife Safiya. So they said, oh Messenger of Allah, are we going to suspect about you? He said, no. The Satan runs in your blood, in the blood of somebody. In the shaitan yajri min ibn Adam majra dam, like runs in our body like our blood. So that's why you're not supposed to put yourself in a case that people would suspect about you. دع ما يريبك إلى ما لا يريبك. Supposed to clarify and justify your acts that are that can be that people can suspect about it. Okay. So only Abdullah ibn Dinar narrated from Abdullah ibn Umar this hadith. ينفرد به راو عن ذلك المنفرد. It can have a same thing that only one narrator and only other narrator can narrate from him. Only one too. Like hadith Shu'ab al-Iman, the branches of Iman, where the Prophet ﷺ says, Al-Imanu bid'un wa sittuna shu'ba wal haya'u shu'batun min al-Iman. Iman is so and so, about more than 60 branches, and being shy is one of those branches of faith. So this narration, only Abu Salih narrated from Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu. Abdullah ibn Dinar. And it can carry on like that. Well, actually, I don't know why he didn't mention the most famous hadith hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari says, إنما الأعمال بالنيات وإنما لكل امرئ ما نوى فمن كانت هجرته إلى الله ورسوله فهجرته إلى الله ورسوله. Mention this hadith, where this hadith only by Umar ibn Khattab, and Umar ibn Khattab, Alqamah ibn Waqqas al-Laythi, narrated to Muhammad ibn Sulaiman al-Taymi. Muhammad Sulaiman al-Taymi narrated to Muhammad great Imams of Medina. Okay, and then it spread. After that, it spread. So this one after one, all of them are. We have only one narrator that narrated it. So he says here, and in Musnad al-Bazzar we have a lots of these kinds of narrations, and in the mid Mu'jam dictionary, but here he means alphabetical book, where Tabarani mentions the names of his shuyukh and narrates from them, and he put them on an alphabetical class. I mean, he put them on an alphabetical classification. So he says there are a lots of examples of this in these two books. Al-Bazzar Ahmad ibn Amr ibn Abdul Khaliq al-Bazzar. Bazzar means the one that sells seeds and stuff like that. Seeds and stuff like that. These are called bizr. So al-Bazzar is the one who sells these kinds of things. This scholar was in Basra, and he has a famous book called Musnad. Al-Musnad. It's published. It's a big Musnad, and there are lots of narrations like that in that book. Where Tabarani is from Tabariya. Tabariya is Tiberias in Palestine right now. There's a small lake there. It's not a small lake, actually. It's a big lake called the Lake of Tiberias. It's in Palestine. Northern Palestine. So Tabarani is originally from that place. His name is Abu al-Qasim Sulaiman ibn Ahmad ibn Ayyub, 360, where Al-Bazzar passed in the year 292. Al-Tabarani, the biggest one, the middle, and the small. The small one is one volume. The middle is big, actually. It's 11 volumes or something like that. But the biggest one is a lot. It's published in about 20 volumes or something like that. But most of his books contain a lots of weak narrations. And Imam Al-Haythami, Nur al-Din Al-Haythami, his name is Ali ibn Abi Bakr. Ali ibn Abi Bakr. The son-in-law of Al-Hafiz Al-Iraqi, Hafiz Abd al-Rahim ibn Hussein Al-Iraqi rahimahullah, who has this famous books in And Al-Haythami gave some lectures to Al-Hafiz Ibn Hajar, but at the same time he's his mate, because they have the same professor, but maybe Al-Hafiz Ibn Hajar participated in some of his lectures or something like that, because he calls him sometimes Shaykhuna, and he considers him as his Shaykh. But I believe that Al-Hafiz Ibn Hajar is more knowledgeable than Al-Haythami. Al-Haythami rahimahullah, he wrote a very famous book, which is a very interesting book, called Majma' al-Zawaid. Majma' al-Zawaid wa Manba' al-Fawaid. Majma' al-Zawaid. What did he do? He went to all the narrations that are extra, that you can't find them in, that are extra more than what are in the 6 books: Bukhari, Muslim, Abu Dawood, Nasa'i, Tirmidhi, Ibn Majah, that are not in these books, but in these books that I'm going to mention: Musnad Imam Ahmad, Musnad al-Bazzar, Sahih Ibn Hibban, Mu'ajim al-Awsat, wal-Kabir, wal-Awsat, wal-Saghir, أو الطبراني. Wait a second, please. هادي الكبير according to latest prints. Well, it differs. It depends on the edits, because sometimes the editors put lots of footnotes which make the book a bit big. Anyway, الطبراني books, he has مجمع البحرين في زوائد المعجمين, which he went to المعجم الكبير الأوسط of الطبراني. He took all the extra narrations that are there, and he classified them in a beautiful way. These books are very interesting, because if you have معجم الطبراني, it means you have the 6 books and plus these books that we mentioned, because you're not going to need the narrations that are in the 6 books. You need to know the narrations that are extra, more than the 6 books. Went on and he talked about every hadith. Mentioning, is it authentic? It's not authentic. What is it? Even Hafiz Ibn Hajar has a work on the same thing, and he went reviewing what Al-Hafiz Al-Haythami did. But when Al-Haythami knew that, he was so upset, so Hafiz Ibn Hajar stopped. He said, "Are you going to come and show me what to do?" He didn't like that. So Hafiz Ibn Hajar didn't want to disturb him. He said, "Okay, no problem." He stopped his work about that. الغريب الفرد النسبي والثاني الفرد النسبي. But غريب, not totally غريب. What does that mean? He says سمي نسبيا لكون التفرد فيه حصل بالنسبة إلى شخص معين. gharib due to something because it depends, it is gharib due to somebody or some place or anything else. إن كان الحديث في نفسه مشهورا, if this narration is well known, ويقل إطلاق الفردية عليه لأن الغريب والفرد مترادفان لغة واصطلاحا. Subhanallah, if you remember, Al-Bayquni differed Al-Gharib from Al-Fard. These two from each other. Where Al-Hafidh Ibn Hajar put them in one place. And he says here they're the same thing. He says Al-Gharib and Al-Fard are the same thing in language and in the terms of Ahl Hadith. So, in the language, when you say something is gharib, that means it's by itself. Of hadith, of mustalah hadith, when they say gharib, that means one narrator narrated this hadith in one of the parts of the chain. So if you say infarada bihi rawin, it's the same if you said هذا حديث غريب. But he says إلا أن أهل الاصطلاح غايروا بينهما من حيث كثرة الاستعمال وقلته. But the scholars of Mustalah al-Hadith differed due to using one of them a lot and using the other less than that. فالفرد أكثر ما يطلقونه على الفرد المطلق والغريب أكثر ما يطلقونه على الفرد النسبي. And this is why, so he says al-fard, times they call it, they talk about it when the hadith is totally, from all kinds of aspects, is narrated by only one person. Where they call gharib, when it's not totally like that, it's in due to something, it's like that. I don't know, did the information reach to you what I want to say? Did you get the idea? Did you get the idea that I want to tell you? Stop on it and we'll stop there and try to discuss it. وهذا من حيث إطلاق الاسم عليها. A position of what? Both of them are, I mean, when you say fard, that means only one person narrated it. But when you say gharib, no. For example, only the people of Kufa narrated. Only the people of Damascus narrated. Or it's gharib from narrating it from this Sahabi, for example. Fard and gharib different. No, they are the same thing, but mostly scholars of hadith use al-fard when it's al-fard al-mutlaq and use al-gharib when it's fard nisbi. This is what he wants to say. So we can say that al-gharib is al-fard al-mutlaq and al-gharib they use this word here and they use this word there. Did you get that? Okay. قال وهذا من حيث الإطلاق. This is due to the name, the term. But وأما من حيث استعمالهم الفعل المشتق فلا يفرقون. فيقولون في المطلق والنسبي تفرد به فلان. Okay. This is when they give the term, but when they're using the word, they use the word تفرد. They say تفرد به فلان عن فلان, or they say تفرد به فلان عن أهل الكوفة, or تفرد به فلان عن أهل دمشق, or عن أهل مكة or Medina or whatever. So they say, or they can say أغرب فلان, the same thing. If they say تفرد or أغرب, it's the same. وقريب من هذا اختلافهم في المنقطع والمرسل. Something similar to that is when they talk about المنقطع and المرسل. منقطع means cut. The tabi'i says the Prophet ﷺ says so and so without mentioning the Sahabi. هل. Now this means, pay attention, this means that al-mursal is a type of al-munqata, right? Is that right? Because when the tabi'i says the Prophet ﷺ said so and so, he didn't meet the Prophet ﷺ. Did he ever meet the Prophet ﷺ? He never met the Prophet ﷺ. Why they consider al-mursal as a weak hadith? Why? Because there's a cut there. We don't know who narrated that hadith. Maybe there's another tabi'i, then the sahabi comes. Or else if we knew that the one that is dropped there is only the sahabi, that doesn't matter because all sahaba are trustworthy. We don't have a problem with the sahaba. You see? Did you get that? Wait, we're going to reach to that. We still didn't reach to that actually. Is munqata and mursal the same or they are different? فأكثر المحدثين على التغاير. The majority of muhaddithin, they say they're different. المرسل is not منقطع. لكنه عند إطلاق الاسم وأما عند استعمال الفعل المشتق فيستعملون الإرسال فقط. يقول أرسله فلان سواء كان ذلك مرسلا أو منقطعا. Is only when we're talking about the term, but when we're deriving an adjective from that, adjective, an act, we say that this hadith is this hadith so and so arsalahu. Whom is the narrator that he took it from? So he just left it. Arsala means send something. When you send something, arsalahu. Arsalahu. That means he didn't mention who his shaykh is, and that's a cut in the chain. ومن ثم أطلق غير واحد ممن لا يلاحظ موقع استعمالهم على كثير من المحدثين أنهم لا يغايرون بين المرسل والمنقطع وليس كذلك كما حررناه وقل من نبه على النكتة في ذلك والله أعلم. حافظ ابن حجر رحمه الله says that's why many pay attention to this different. They started saying that the muhaddithin don't differentiate between mursal and munqata. Told you what is the difference and what do they, when do they differentiate, and what is the thing that they don't differentiate it. Mention this this small tick that I just told you right now. Allah on مقدمة ابن الصلاح. مقدمة ابن الصلاح is book that everybody depends on in Mustalah Hadith. He has some opinions that you can discuss about. So Al-Hafiz ibn Hajar went putting some footnotes on it. He called it An-Nukat ala ibn Salah. An-Nukat. Nukat means like footnotes or something like that. An-Nukat ala ibn Salah. Same thing was by Al-Hafiz Al-Iraqi, where Al-Hafiz Al-Iraqi did a good job on Muqaddimat ibn Salah. He went making it definitions and terms considered as making what Ibn Salah said and adding to it several things. So that's a good work. And then he went making a commentary on it. That commentary is one of the first commentaries on, because he made a commentary on his poem. So he added to it a lot of new information. And scholars keep on, and then the best commentary on the poem of Al-Hafiz Al-Iraqi is the student of Al-Hafiz Al-Hajar rahimahullah, one of the great scholars, Al-Hafiz Al-Sakhawi rahimahullah, wrote his book Fath al-Mughith Sharh Alfiyat al-Hadith. Fath al-Mughith. Is that true? All these things are known, huh? You remember it, and it sticks in your mind. But when you just read it and forget about it and you don't discuss it anymore, it disappears, it evaporates, goes away. Sometimes you start thinking about things to derive it again, to get it from your hard disk. And the hard disk, when it goes cold and you don't use it anymore, it has to get shocked to refresh again. You have to discuss knowledge always, all kinds of knowledge, to keep remembering it and updating it. Your knowledge has to be updated every time by reading the last works that were done and refreshing it by going back and studying the books. And the best way is to go and teach the book. You go and teach the lectures, and you can gather a few of your friends and teach them the same book. So if you have Nuzhat Al-Nadhar or Bayquni or whatever, or you have a book in any madhab that you're focusing on, and you start teaching it, you are the most one that is going to gain. Okay. وخبر الآحاد بنقل عدل تام الضبط متصل السند غير معلل ولا شاذ هو الصحيح لذاته إلى 4 أنواع لأنه إما أن يشتمل من صفات القبول على أعلاها أو لا. Okay. Authentic hadith. What is the authentic hadith? He says the authentic hadith cannot be considered as an authentic hadith. It has these 5 conditions. أولها الصحيح وهو متصل أولها الصحيح وهو ما اتصل إسناده بنقل عدل. First thing, he has to be trustworthy. Second, أوله الإسناد وهو اتصل إسناده ولم يشذ أو يعل. إسناده ولم يشذ أو يعل. It has to be, first thing, it has to be narrated by trustworthy people. Second thing, actually the first thing, yes. Second thing, he has to be very smart and neat in memorizing. Third thing, the chain has to be all continuous. No cut there. Fourth thing, there is no illa, there is no problem in the chain. What is this problem? What can it be? Maybe somebody narrated from somebody and he misunderstood his name, or he didn't know anything about him, or lots of problems. ولا شاذ ولم يشذ أو يعل. Others don't agree about. الصحيح لذاته. It's authentic by itself. That chain is authentic because we have صحيح لذاته وصحيح لغيره. Sometimes the chain is authentic and sometimes the chain is not authentic, but when we support it with other chains, it becomes a sahih li ghayrihi because it was supported. Type of the authentic or the agreeable narrations, which are four kinds, because the narrations are either in the high rank, where all attributes of the authentic narration is there, or no. So the first one is when all these attributes are there, all these conditions, not attributes, all these conditions are there. This is called as-sahih li dhatihi. The second, if there is something less than the high rank, that support the narration that we're talking about, it's called as-sahih, it's authentic, but it's not authentic by itself. We call it sahih li ghayri, it's authentic for another reason, not from the same reason. And there is we want, but it's not weak. We consider that as chain. We don't call it sahih, we say hadithun hasan. وقدم الكلام على الصحيح لذاته لعلو مرتبته. Here, وإن قامت قرينة ترجح جانب القبول ما يتوقف فيه فهو الحسن أيضا لكن لا لذاته. Hadith is weak, but we have things that support the hadith. It's good, it's a good hadith, but not good by itself, good by the support. So it's called hadithun hasanun li ghayrihi. Now what is al-adl? Al-adl, trustworthy person. من له ملكة تحمله على ملازمة التقوى والمروءة، والمراد بالتقوى اجتناب الأعمال السيئة من شرك أو فسق أو بدعة. One that is just He followed the Sharia. He doesn't. So we call him Adl. This is called Adl. And he doesn't do silly acts. So he's called Adl. What do you mean by silly acts? I mean by silly acts, he doesn't go running wearing a short in the markets. He's a humble guy. He's respected. People respect him. So he doesn't act these funny acts. So this is called al-muru'ah. Al-muru'ah. He says here وقدم الكلام على الصحيح لذاته لعلو مرتبته. الصحيح لذاته Shaykh, was there ever any dalil or reason given to the condition of muru'ah? And that doesn't respect the cults. The one that does not respect the cults, he will be unrespected in the place that he's in. So when he does that, for example, in a place that no one goes without putting any hat on his head like this. But this is in a nation that is like that. These are cults. Things that people respect. So when you don't pay attention to the culture and you don't put it in your mind, people will humiliate you and will not listen to you. And more than that, they say that if you carry on disrespecting the culture, you might go and disrespect even the limits of the religion. Lots of people in our nations started rebelling against the culture. You know, there are some cults, and it's called al-urf. Al-urf. Taqalid. At-taqalid. The cults, if they are not against Islam, you have to respect it. For example, there are cults in every nation, Muslim or not Muslim. Some of these cults are good. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ, sent to continue the beautiful morals and meanings. That means he recognizes those cults. But there are other cults that are against. For example, let me tell you something. My father, rahimahullah, had a very big job in Australia. This was since about 40 years ago to 30 years ago. He used to organize the Muslims there, and maybe the elders would know him. Maybe the elders would know him. And once he went, and even in Europe, and he has a book published in English called Muslim Minorities in the World. And he has an Arabic book called Al-Muslimun fi Europa wa America. An Indian and he found that they have a big problem. Women came complaining to him. They said that we're not allowed to enter the masjid. So he told them, why aren't you allowed to enter the masjid? They said, our culture, our Indian culture, doesn't agree that women would go to the masjid. They say women keep home and they don't pray in the masjid. But if we keep here, for example, in the West, if we keep home, we will not learn our religion. We won't know anything about our religion. So if we don't go and participate in the lectures of the masjid and listen to the scholars giving lectures, where are we going to study? So this is a type of culture or cult that is against the Islamic meanings. Because the Prophet ﷺ used to let women come to the masjid, and he even told men that if your wives ask you to go to pray in the night in the masjid, you're not allowed to prevent them from that. And the woman, but they're supposed to go wearing conservative clothes, of course, with their hijab, with their stuff like that, without any perfume, etc. And you would find in every country a kind of cults that are against Islam. On the other hand, you will find beautiful cults that are accepted. So these kinds of cults that are accepted, we have to respect them. And scholars in their books give some examples. They say like, in Gunna, listen, I'm gonna listen from the Facebook. It is better, clear. Yeah, the Facebook is good actually. It's up to you guys. There are now some new generations, no matter they are religious or not religious, they started rebelling against the cults. It started by the uniform and then it carried on. I can't say that the cults are respected like religion, because the cults differ. Uniforms differ, ways of speaking differ. Our generation is not our parents' generation, and it's not our grandfather's generation. Things change. But when there is a respected cult, people have to respect it as long as it is following that it doesn't contradict with Islam. Okay. Go back. So here he says, "Murad bil-adl." That means to memorize the hadith. We have two kinds of memorizing. The first kind of memorizing is ضبط الصدر, وهو ضبط الصدر means in your heart. And whenever you want to tell us what you heard, you start remembering it and telling us that. وضبط, and memorizing by conserving the information in a book, by writing what you heard. So you have your book where you wrote the narrations, and no one is allowed to open that book except you, or else if they corrupt the book, that means all your narrations are corrupted. وهو صيانته لديه منذ سمع فيه وصححه إلى أن يؤدي منه وقيد بالتام إشارة إلى الرتبة العليا في ذلك. So it's preserve your book since you heard and you fixed the narrations until you give it again. narrated again. And he said, high ضبط tam, that means you memorize very neat. Memorize very neat. محمد وقيد بالتام إشارة إلى الرتبة that or conserving the book because he's talking about the highest rank. Yes. إشارة إلى الرتبة العليا في ذلك. Between Hadith al-Hasan and Sahih. What is the difference between Hadith Hasan and Sahih? Is this that this is the high rank, this is the mid rank. والمتصل ما سلم إسناده من سقوط فيه بحيث كل من رجال سمع ذلك المروي عن شيخه والسند تقدم تعريفه. So there's no drop in the isnad. Everyone heard from his shaykh. From the previous narrator. So okay, so this is clear, alhamdulillah. والسند is the chain. Sanad is the chain. So you say sanad, that means the chain that we're talking about that connects. So it has to be continuous, connected with each other. So you have a continuous chain. It's like when you have so if it's cut somewhere, it won't run. Like electricity won't run. If you have a light, it won't work because the electricity doesn't because it's not continuous. والمعلل لغة ما فيه علة. معلل علة means sick, disease. Disease, yes. وما فيه علة واصطلاحا ما فيه علة خفية قادحة. Narration that has a small problem. That means it has a small invisible problem that affects the hadith. Like what? Like the hadith actually is mursal and you think that it's continuous. Or it's cut and you think that, or one race you thought that he was so and so, but actually he's not so and so, he's so and so another one. And so like. Al-Fard. Shadh, the word shadh means did that or said that or whatever. واصطلاحا ما يخالف فيه الراوي من هو أرجح منه وله تفسير آخر سيأتي إن شاء الله تعالى. Shadh is any narration. Shadh is any narration that one narrated it. He's trustworthy, but he's not so strong. He's a bit weak. And others, all of his friends narrate it in a way and he went narrating in another way. So we can't reject all the narrations to believe his narration, and it contradicts with it. So if we can compare them, combine them with each other, that's good. But if we can't do that, we will say that this is mursal and this is munqata'. تنبيه. قوله وخبر الآحاد كالجنس وباقي قيوده كالفصل. قوله عما ينقله غير عدل. So here he says, when he says خبر الآحاد, this is the big title. We're talking about and all the other conditions are like chapters inside the biggest chapter. And when we say بنقل العدل, that means it is narrated by a trustworthy person, not by a liar or a brilliant or something like that. وقوله وهو يسمى Yes. So he says here وقوله هو يسمى فصلا يتوسط بين المبتدأ والخبر يوذن بأن ما بعده خبر عما قبله ليس بنعت له. Just to show you the definition, every part of the definition. And then he says لذاته يخرج عما يسمى صحيحا بأمر آخر عنه. That means we're talking about the hadith that is authentic by one chain. We're not talking about a hadith that is authentic due to other circumstances. مراتب الصحيح باعتبار قوة الإسناد. وتتفاوت رتبه أي رتب الصحيح بسبب تفاوت هذه الأوصاف المقتضية للتصحيح في القوة، فإنها لما كانت مفيدة لغلبة الظن الذي عليه مدار الصحة اقتضت أن يكون لها درجات بعضها فوق بعض بحسب الأمور المقوية. وإذا كان كذلك فما بالك فما يكون رواته في الدرجة العليا من العدالة والضبط وسائر الصفات التي توجب الترجيح كان أصح مما دونه. It differs. The ranks of this sahih are not like each other. When we say this hadith is authentic, that doesn't mean all the authentic hadith are the same rank. Some of them are 100% authentic, some are 90% authentic, some are 80% authentic. So the authenticity differs according to these conditions that we're talking about. If they are strong and all of them are there, they make us believe that this hadith has a high percentage to be authentic. And it goes low and low according to every condition that is not there. So if we say that the authentic narration gives us a high feeling that this hadith is from the words of the Prophet ﷺ, that differs. When we have narrators that narrate that they have a strong memory, it's not like when we have إذا كان كذلك فما يكون رواة الدرجة العليا من العدالة والضبط, that narrators and very neat narrators. It's not like when we have less than that. فمن المرتبة العليا في ذلك ما أطلق عليه بعض الأئمة إنه أصح الأسانيد. So from these high ranks of narrators or chains, authentic chains, it's what they call أصح الأسانيد. أصح الأسانيد means the most authentic chains. Like what? Like الزهري عن سالم بن عبد الله بن عمر عن أبيه. الزهري, the great Imam of Medina, that narrates from Salim ibn Abdullah ibn Umar from his father Abdullah ibn Umar. This is the highest rank of hadith. And this Imam Malik narrates from this chain a lot. And then we have Muhammad ibn Sirin ibn Amr al-Salmani by Ali radiallahu anhu. So this is a very high rank too. We have Ibrahim al-Nakhai by Alqama by Ibn Mas'ud, highest rank too. بريد بن عبد الله بن أبي بردة عن أبيه عن جده عن أبيه أبي موسى. So بريد ibn Abdullah ibn Abi Burda, he narrated أبو موسى الأشعري رضي الله عنه. وكحماد بن سلمة عن ثابت عن أنس. Yes, حماد بن سلمة narrates from ثابت البناني from أنس بن مالك رضي الله عنه. وسهيل بن أبي صالح عن أبي عن أبي هريرة. وكالعلاء بن عبد الرحمن عن أبي. All these guys are at the end they have a good memory. إلا أن في المرتبة الأولى من الصفات المرجحة لما يقتضي تقديم روايتهم على التي تليها على التي تليها وفي التي تليها من قوة الضبط ما يقتضي تقديمها على الثانية، وهي مقدمة على رواية من يعد ما يتفرد به حسنا ما يتفرد به حسنا. So that I just mentioned right now, the second category, they are considered less than the first category. Okay, very good. Then it says فإن الجميع يشملهم اسم العدالة والضبط. أيوة. ما يتفرد به حسنا. They prefer this narration than any other narration that they call, that they mention, that say that anyone who is only the one that narrates it, his narration is called Hasan. Called Hasan. Jabir Hasan. Why? Because Muhammad ibn Ishaq, the narrator of the Sirah Nabawiyya, his memory is less than others. وعمر بن شعيب عن أبي عن جده أطلق عليه بعض الأئمة إنها أصح الأسانيد، والمعتمد عدم الإطلاق لعدم عدم الإطلاق لترجمة معينة منها. So they call that أصح الأسانيد, authentic chains. Ibn Hajar is the most authentic isnad. No, he says no. We can talk about general things, but to say this chain is the most authentic chain, he says no. لاتفاق العلماء بعد أيوة. Okay, wait a second. I'm having some difficulties here because of the children. Are you listening to me very good? Is the voice clear? Is everything good? Or there are some problems? Clear? No problem? No disturbing voices? No, not the link. I mean the voices. The outside voices. قل لهم يبكيش الله يحبك. Wait a second. الله يحبك شيء. Okay, alhamdulillah, no problem. Okay, so here he says, and you can you can carry on. He says carry on doing the same thing and talking about every condition of the conditions that we talked about, and implementing it on the chains that we have. والمرتبة الأولى هي وقس على هذه المراتب ما يشبهها في الصفات المرجحة. والمرتبة الأولى هي التي أطلق عليها بعض الأئمة إنها أصح الأسانيد والمعتمد عدم الإطلاق لترجمة معينة منها. He says, accepted opinion to say that you can't say this is the highest rank of chain. Don't say this is the highest rank of, this is the most authentic chain. Why? Because it depends. It depends. It can be here the most authentic, and in another place, it's in another narration, it's not the highest, the highest, the most highest authentic chain. نعم يستفاد من مجموع ما أطلق الأئمة عليه ذلك أرجحيته على ما لم يطلقوه. Yes, we can say we can learn from what they said. ما أطلق عليه الأئمة ذلك أرجحية ما لم يطلق. Most authentic chain we can take from that it has a high rank. It has a high rank, yes. مراتب الصحيح باعتبار مصادره. مراتب الصحيح باعتبار مصادره. The classes of the ويلتحق بهذا التفاضل ما اتفق الشيخان على تخريجه بالنسبة إلى من انفرد به أحدهما. Allah, due to the chains, the narrators, and stuff like that. Now he's talking about the strength of the authenticity according to other aspects. Like what? Like the books. Is that book accepted or not accepted? Do the majority of the ummah accept that book and consider it as a very high ranked book, or it doesn't consider it like that? And that means they are taking care of that book, they're making commentaries on it, they're taking care of the chains, like the two authentic Bukhari and Muslim, like the two books of Bukhari and Muslim, like others. So there, he's now talking about all these things. So he said here, ويلتحق بهذا التفاضل ما اتفق الشيخان على تخريجه بالنسبة إلى من فرد به أحدهما. So we not differ. We consider, or we prefer what Bukhari narrates than what Muslim narrates, or the narration that is narrated by the two Imams, Bukhari and Muslim, is accepted more than if one of them narrates it, because it's more stronger. Than what Muslim narrates by himself. ومن فرد به البخاري إلى من فرد به مسلم لاتفاق العلماء بعدهما على تلقي كتابيهما بالقبول. Because scholars agree that all what is in Bukhari and Muslim is accepted, and all Muslims in the world, except the Shia and these astray guys, we don't pay attention to those guys. We're talking about the majority of the Ummah, the great scholars of all the Ummah. We're not talking about sects. Please pay attention to this. When we talk about the Ummah, the Islamic nation, from the west to the east, we're talking about the great scholars that gave the Ummah and protected its knowledge. Who are the people who took care of the Quran? Who are the people who took care of the Sunnah? Who are the people who took care of cleaning the Sunnah from any lie or any mistakes? Who are the scholars who made commentaries on the Quran and the Sunnah? Who are the majority of the scholars who wrote huge encyclopedias of fiqh, jurisprudence, Islamic jurisprudence? Who are the main scholars that wrote all kinds of Islamic books and all kinds of, and believe in stuff like that? It's the Sunnah, Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, Ahl Sunnah, who are the main Ummah. Shia and all these sects that just are like, when you have a tree, a huge tree, and then you have some bush under it. That's not the main tree. The tree is the big tree, but the bush is something else. Shaykh, one question: what is your opinion, or what can you say about how nowadays some people claim there are da'if ahadith in Sahih al-Bukhari? Why do they say this? Is it true, or should we ignore them? You should ignore them. That's not true. Scholars talked about that. Scholars talked about that and criticized al-Bukhari and Muslim in their days. Great scholars. But most of them criticized, they didn't say that there are weak hadith in Bukhari and Muslim. They said that there are some conditions that Bukhari and Muslim try to implement, and sometimes, according to their opinion, like what Imam al-Hafiz al-Daraqutni said and others, they didn't implement that fulfill their conditions according to their opinion. Al-Hafiz ibn Hajar rahimahullah, in his introduction to Sahih al-Bukhari, Hadi al-Sari, which is an introduction to his book, he defended Sahih al-Bukhari, and he talked about all those things. He made a genius work, rahimahullah. So these ignorant guys that most of them didn't even read Sahih al-Bukhari. From the beginning to the end. They just go and open some chapters like that and some just look, oh, this is a stupid hadith. Oh, this hadith is not a good hadith. These guys are stupid guys, and these guys are the enemies of the Sunnah. And they always drop from day to another. And there were people like that in the history. Most of them were from these astray groups, sects, not groups, sects. Like the Shia, the Mu'tazila, and so like others like these kinds of groups. These groups reject the hadith of Bukhari and Muslim because it doesn't suit their minds, it doesn't suit their desires, it doesn't suit their astray opinions. So they don't reject the hadith because they are rejected, and they don't follow the scientific way to say that the hadith is that is authentic or not authentic. People, and actually when you study Bukhari and Muslim, you go and study it, you read the commentaries of the great scholars like Hafiz Hajar, like Hafiz Al-Aini, like Qastallani and others, you would find that these are rubbish, these are nothing. Like a kid that comes and sits down near a physician and then starts telling him, you don't know how to make surgery operations and you are stupid, you are so and so. What do you think the physician is going to tell him, the doctor? He's going to tell my son, go and when you grow up, you're going to learn. If you learn these kinds of knowledges, these kinds of science, you would understand. If you don't learn it, you would never understand. So this is the answer to these guys who say these things. You should ignore them. Don't pay attention to them. واختلاف بعضهم في أيهما أرجح فما اتفق عليه أرجح من هذه الحيثية مما لم يتفق عليه. It says all scholars agree that these two books, Bukhari and Muslim, are acceptable. Discuss which is better than which. The difference is which book, Bukhari, is better than Muslim or Muslim is better than Bukhari. So if Bukhari and Muslim agree about a hadith, so that's it. That's fantastic. That's going to be more than if one of them narrates it, because all scholars agree that both of these books are on the high rank of authenticity. وقد صرح الجمهور بتقديم صحيح البخاري في الصحة. Bukhari is more authentic than Muslim. And we don't have anyone that said is more authentic than Bukhari. We don't have that. Maybe we have someone who said it's preferable than Bukhari, not authentic. وأما ما نقل عن أبي علي النيسابوري أنه قال ما تحت أديم السماء أصح من كتاب مسلم فلم يصرح بكون البخاري أنه إنما نفى وجود كتاب أصح من كتاب مسلم إذ المنفي إنما هو ما يقتضيه صيغة أفعل من زيادة الصحة في كتاب شارك كتاب مسلم في الصحة يمتاز بتلك الزيادة عليه ولم ينفي المساواة. He said, for what Abu Ali al-Nisaburi said, Abu Ali al-Nisaburi is a great Imam, Hafiz, his name is Al-Husayn, is of a big city, northern Iran nowadays. And there were a lot of scholars that came from that city. And he passed in the year 349. What did Abu Ali Nisaburi say? He said that there is no book under the sky more authentic than Muslim. He says, he didn't say, he says that Abu Ali Nisaburi a book more authentic than Muslim, but he didn't say that it's more authentic than Bukhari. It might be equal to Bukhari. It might be, according to the opinion of Abu Ali Nisaburi, it's equal to Bukhari. So he didn't say it's better, it's preferable, it's more authentic than Bukhari. You see? This is what he wants to say here. وكذلك ما نقل عن بعض المغاربة أنه فضل صحيح مسلم على البخاري فذلك فيما يرجع إلى حسن السياق وجودة الوضع والترتيب ولم يفصح أحد منهم بأن ذلك راجع إلى الأصحية ولو أفصحوا به لرده عليهم شاهد الوجود. He said, and what some Western Muslims, all this is called Maghrib, Maghrib Islami. He said, what these guys said, that Al-Muslim is better than Bukhari, that they mean in classification, in kind of, and how he wrote it. He made an introduction, beautiful introduction to the book. All these things are better than the way that Bukhari wrote his book. They didn't say that that means Muslim is more authentic than Bukhari. And if they said that, actually, when you examine the two books and the conditions of the first book and the second book, you will find that Bukhari is more authentic than Muslim. Bukhari is more authentic than Muslim. فالصفات التي تدور عليها الصحة في كتاب البخاري أتم منها في كتاب مسلم وأسد وشرطه فيها أقوى وأشد. Says attributes that are in Sahih al-Bukhari are more full longer than what is in Muslim. So the conditions of Bukhari are more strong. And this, who's saying this? It's Hafiz ibn Hajar, who the best commentary on Bukhari. So he knows, he examined the book, he knows it very well. وأما رجحانه من حيث الاتصال. Yes. وأما رجحانه من حيث الاتصال فلاشتراطه أن يكون الراوي قد ثبت له لقاء من روى عنه ولو مرة واكتفى مسلم بمطلق المعاصرة وألزم البخاري بأنه يحتاج أن لا يقبل العنعنة وما ألزمه به ليس بلازم لأن الراوي إذا أثبت له اللقاء مرة لا يجري في روايته احتمال أن لا يكون قد سمع لأنه يلزم من جريانه أن يكون مدلسا والمسألة مفروضة في غير مدلس. He says here, Bukhari more authentic than Muslim due to the continuous of the chain. Oh, what is happening? Due to the chain, the continuous of the chain, we have to have a proof that he met his shaykh only at least one time. At least one time. Muslim says, well, if he narrates from him, that's enough, because he's not going to lie and say I narrated from so and so where he never narrated from him, because he is trustworthy. That's enough. And he said that anyone who says that he didn't mention Bukhari, and he didn't mention any other name. But some say he meant Bukhari, some say no, he meant Ali ibn al-Madini. I believe that he meant Ali ibn al-Madini, not Bukhari. Wallahu alam. But anyway, what Ali ibn al-Madini said and what Bukhari said are similar to each other anyway, because Ali ibn al-Madini is Bukhari's professor. He's his Shaykh. Not accept any hadith that has العنعنة عن فلان عن فلان. When somebody doesn't say that I narrated from so and so, I heard him saying, he told me, but he said I so and so said, without mentioning that he told him or he heard from him, he said that means you don't have to accept this narration. Al-Hafidh Hajar, he has to reject al-anana. That's not true. But why? Because if we know that the narrator at least one time met his professor, and we have a proof about that, we don't expect that he didn't hear from his professor. That he's mudallis. What is mudallis? Mudallis is the one that narrates from somebody things Yes, al-mudallis is someone who narrates from somebody something that he never heard from him, in a way that seems that he heard it from him. And normally he uses the word an, or qala, or anna fulanan qala, something like that. Worthy and not mudallis. So imagining that he's going to narrate something that he never heard from him, no, it doesn't exist here. Wallahu alam, this is what he's trying to defend his opinion. I think let us stop here. There's still a lot to say, and this is time. Alhamdulillah, sallallahu ala rasulullah wa alihi wa sahbihi wa ala. If you have any question, I'll be happy to answer your questions. Yeah.
About how there are certain conditions that can make a khabar al-ahad give you al-daruri.
Yes.
One of them was if it's found in the Sahihain. So I was studying usul al-fiqh recently, and there are certain things that are qat'i, like the khas, for example. So I asked the Shaykh that what impact does this have on your iman if you can say this is qat'i, but then other madahib differ on this. So he said that this is qat'i only in the realm of usul al-fiqh and fiqh. So I was wondering over here, when we talk about hadith ahad giving you al-daruri or yaqeen, is this talking about aqidah as well, or is it only talking about?
No, it's talking only about accepting the hadith. Not talking about, what do you mean by aqidah?
Like for example,
the people of kalam, المتكلمون, rejects the hadith ahad in aqidah. Mu'tazila and Asha'ira and Maturidiyya, I think, too. You find that they're not strict in this, because they even can use some da'if ahadith in their aqidah, the books of aqidah. You can find that too. So, and actually, when you go back to the chapter that Imam Bukhari wrote in when he wrote in Bukhari Bab Hadith al-Ahad, showing that the Sahaba accepted Hadith al-Ahad. So making a difference between Hadith al-Ahad in deriving from it how to pray, how to do, and deriving from it your belief, that's nothing, because the Sahaba didn't differentiate between that. They accepted the hadith from the Prophet ﷺ when it reached to them, and that's what the Sahaba, the Tabi'een, did, and other Imams. So differentiating between these two, there is no evidence about that. And when we say that do we take from it al-ilm or al-amal? Kalimun did that, where actually when a knowledge reaches to you, and it's 80 or 90% that the Prophet ﷺ said it, you have to practice it, because that's it. This is knowledge. Yes. Okay, is that enough? Yes.
Can I answer the question? So, just want to confirm the full name of Imam al-Tabarani. Was that Abu Qasim Sulaiman bin Ayyub?
Sulaiman bin Ahmad. Wait a second. Sulaiman bin Ahmad.
Ahmad
Ibn Ayyub. Sulaiman bin Ahmad bin Ayyub al-Tabarani, yes. Abu al-Qasim.
And could I get his date of birth?
Sorry?
His date of birth and
Yeah.
date of
He was
he
60. He lived 100 years. 360.
And also, could I get the dates of Ali bin Abu Bakr al-Haythami, please?
Ali ibn Abi Bakr al-Haythami, Nur al-Din al-Haythami. I don't have exactly when his exactly.
And do you know his date of birth?
Okay, wait a second. I'll get it for you. Wait a second. Eight hundred and seven. But when was he born? I don't have it right now.
And the last question.
Yes.
So you mentioned Sahih Zati Hadith or the Hadith of authentic per se. The question was, is there anything stronger than that sort of Hadith?
Properly.
So the question was, is there anything stronger than a Sahih Zati Hadith?
المتواتر. متواتر.
Okay.
You get it? Okay, thank you very much.